We do not expect harmful levels of radiation to reach the United States, whether it's the West Coast, Hawaii, Alaska, or U.S. territories in the Pacific.
Developments in Japan now, where the spread of radiation from the Fukushima nuclear facility is raising concern among those in the region. High levels have been found in the sea nearby, and they are increasing. The government is warning people to get out of the area. Workers trying to restore the cooling capacity of the plant have been evacuated from reactor number 2, where the radiation level is 10 million times more than normal. 3 workers have already been exposed to dangerous materials in the continuing battle to avert catastrophe in the wake of the earthquake tragedy, which destroyed large parts of the country, as well as what happened with the tsunami. The official number of those killed by the quake and tsunami stands at over 10,000, with many more homeless or missing. But Fukushima remains the biggest concern, with the ongoing possibility of a nuclear meltdown.
Pripyat, Ukraine, a dead city. Homes, schoolrooms, playgrounds, and other places are crumbling as wild nature reclaims the land. Pripyat once had some 50,000 residents. Now they are gone, perhaps forever. Only the artifacts of their lives remain behind, rotting to dust. Pripyat died because of the deadliest nuclear power accident in world history, Chernobyl. Early on April 26, 1986, Reactor Unit 4 at Chernobyl, Ukraine was put through an experimental test of its cooling system. The reactor overheated and exploded from steam pressure, ripping the roof off the power plant. Nuclear radiation spewed into the night sky, and as people slept, it spread throughout Pripyat, just north of Chernobyl. In Reactor 4, the nuclear fuel and the graphite surrounding it were on fire. Authorities sent helicopters to fly over the reactor to dump sand and other materials to try to stop the fire, but it burned for days. The wind carried radioactive particles from the fire over a wide area. Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, then Scandinavia, Britain, and other parts of Europe. As the wind shifted direction, so did the radiation.
Food now is becoming a big concern. Tests have detected elevated radiation levels in milk and spinach from areas near the damaged nuclear plant.
Also today, 6 emergency workers there were exposed to levels of radiation equal to 10 chest x-rays in an hour.
Radiation fears rose in Japan today after reports that Tokyo's drinking water is contaminated. Fallout from a damaged nuclear plant sent the levels to twice what's considered safe for babies.
The radioactivity from Chernobyl, Russia, Belarus, the Ukraine, these were 3 places where, a lot of the radiation was deposited. But according to this book, again, based on data, those poisons came down all over the world.
Yes, they did. And the greatest concentrations came down in Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. But the greatest amount, more than 50%, spread around the entire northern hemisphere. Particularly went north into Scandinavia and eastward into Asia.
As far as China.
Oh, yes.
Protests in the capital, Cairo, and protests in the coastal city of Alexandria.
Let's talk to Brother Rakal in Cairo, Egypt, and we've confirmed his number. That's where he's calling from. Mr. Rakal, tell us what's going on.
What the Egyptians are saying here.
Yeah, do the Egyptians know this is a staged event?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, Alex, the Egyptians know nothing about a group called the Muslim Brotherhood. They know nothing of this. A matter of fact, they say it's like CIA or American. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, I would like to say this to all the people out there. The majority of people who was in this so-called Liberty Square, the majority of these people, Alex, had no idea about a revolution. They was invited there they were busted, paid to go there. And if you know, if you ever frequent the Middle East, you'll know that these Arab people who are family, they frequent places together. They'll be outside all day, hundreds at a time. So it's nothing to get a few thousand people in a square.
And what a momentous week it's shaping up to be. In Saudi Arabia, of all places, tomorrow there will be a national day of rage. Tens of thousands of people have signed up over the internet to take part in that day of rage. Many thousands more may join in. Incognito.
Japan and the tsunami that's sweeping through the northeast of the country right now. The government has so far confirmed some 32 deaths, but that number is expected to rise. It follows the 8.9 magnitude earthquake, which sent a 10-meter high wall of water inland across the Miyagi prefecture. The destruction's widespread. We know that 200 people have been washed away, with buildings, cars and ships all swept by those waters. Well, the ramifications are widespread. A 4.5 magnitude earthquake has now struck Hawaii, and we are expecting residents there to brace themselves for a tsunami to reach its shores within the next few hours. And we will, of course, keep you updated.
Talk about what exactly is going on at that nuclear facility and that reactor. And for that, we're going to turn to Dr. Michio Kaku. There's so many questions about what just happened. What does it mean, though? What is the latest that you've heard?
Well, this could be a Chernobyl in the making. We are now going into uncharted territory. We are thinking the unthinkable. Think of a car out of control without brakes, and then your radiator explodes. That's the situation we have here. A runaway car that has no brakes, no emergency core cooling system, and now apparently a steam hydrogen explosion has blown the radiator off. Now, they were depressurizing the reactor just a few hours ago. It looked as if they were within a hair's breadth of bringing it under control. But then a steam hydrogen explosion took place. 4 workers got injured, and all hell is breaking loose.
When you hear that term, a Chernobyl in the making, it's really scary. We do have a map this morning of the evacuation zone. It's 20 kilometers, 12 miles. How important is it to get out of that area, and how far away is safe?
Shares in Japan tumbled yesterday, with the Nikkei closing nearly 11% down, its biggest one-day drop since the stock market crash of October 1987. Liquidity is also an issue. The Bank of Japan has injected an additional $98 billion into the market, on top of $184 billion on Monday.
The face of Libya's crackdown on protests in the east of the country. The people who filmed this online video, which we cannot independently confirm, claim to show mercenaries shooting people in the eastern city of Benghazi.
African mercenaries in their hundreds, if not thousands, are being used by Colonel Gaddafi. They have been shipped, they are still being shipped in even today to Tripoli airport, and they are being armed and they are being used against the demonstrators and against civilians to terrorize them and even to kill them. Some of these mercenaries, African mercenaries, said that the ones who have been caught and interviewed on video said that they have been promised $30,000 each.
Today, I authorized the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect Libyan civilians. That action has now begun.
With the damage from the first 48 hours of airstrikes still being assessed, Gordney at a Pentagon briefing assured reporters that the military was not going after Gaddafi.
At this particular point, I can guarantee that he's not on a targeting list.
Fog of war has settled over the unrest in Libya. There's conflicting reports on the number of killed, airstrikes by Gaddafi forces, the number of cities controlled by the opposition, pretty much everything that's being reported. Last week, a wave of correspondence suggested the opposition was in control of almost the whole country and Gaddafi was doomed. Our Tizak Sanaboyko went to the opposition-held Benghazi to find out why these turned out to be exaggerations.
The allure of a war, incomprehensible as it sounds, it's present in any conflict. Just days ago, these parents feared for their children's lives. Today, they are taking their pictures in front of the tanks. The desire to be captured laughing in the face of danger is even stronger among journalists. And the conflict in Libya is providing a perfect setting for it. On TV screens, Benghazi may look like the center of the rebel resistance.
The country is waking to another day of chaos.
Gaddafi may have lost about half of his country.
They watched these bombs fall from the skies.
But in reality, it's more like a seaside resort than a conflict zone. Hotels are fully booked with journalists, and residents go about their daily lives. Here, boys are looking for new things to play with. Toy guns are in ample supply. Yet some reports sent from Benghazi refer to the situation in eastern Libya as war. Not a conflict zone where rebels are engaged in sporadic and isolated pitched battles with pro-Gaddafi forces, but an all-out war.
Muammar Gaddafi is striking back.
Forces loyal to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi appear to be advancing east.
Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi has fled the country.
With rebels professing their readiness to fight Gaddafi's regime to the bitter end, no wonder news reports are carrying predictions of imminent civil war. Yet, as the rebels' inability to mount a fully fledged offensive becomes more apparent, so is the unbalanced nature of the coverage.
Rather than being impartial observers, some networks stop short of directing the protesters. But here, the Al Jazeera crew is warming up the crowd in time for their next live report.
Tonight, amid reports that nuclear radiation no longer just in the air there in Japan, but now in the food, water, livestock, produce, supplies, and fears that that radiation is coming via food to the U.S. Also, new plumes of smoke rising from two of the nuclear reactors there in Japan. It was believed that there was progress being made over the weekend, but no more. Straight out to Bernie Rayno, senior meteorologist at AccuWeather.com. Bernie, explain how this is going to affect us.
Well, in the United States, I don't think there's going to be a big impact at all. I think that the radiation is, oh boy, here we go, Nancy, huh?
Yeah.
Nancy, this is not heading to the United States.
Last time,
and I'm going to continue to say it,
Nancy. There's a state of emergency
Nancy, this is not
declared in California.
This is not damaging radiation in the United States. It's 1/1000th of what is needed to cause any problems. The state of emergency in California, from what I remember from last week, was from the damage from the tsunami.
Yeah, that's what the Japanese government said too. Don't worry, everything's fine.
No, it's not fine in Japan. Absolutely not. I would never say that. This is a big concern for Japan. This is not a big concern for the West Coast of the United States. And maybe we should just agree to disagree on this.
Well, could you explain to me then why the California governor has declared a state of emergency?
For radiation? That's
Maybe
1
he should
billion?
hear your weather report.
The column is entitled A Glowing Report on Radiation. Glowing radiation, very, very good. But you are not down on radiation poisoning.
Well, it's not me. I'm citing a stunning number of physicists. And from the New York Times and the Times of London, there's a growing body of evidence that radiation in excess of what the government says are the minimum amount you should be exposed to are actually good for you and reduce cases of cancer.
Dr. Sherman, in terms of the amount of radioactivity emitted from the plant, there too, there's a big discrepancy between what's revealed in this book and what's been acknowledged up to now.
Absolutely. And if a small amount was emitted, then we have to conclude that low levels of radiation are extremely damaging. If large levels were emitted, then we have to understand how much damage has been done.
Ready to assist the 100 deployed over the amount needed. Now, it did depend that how the NOLAN remerges RN while the university or the UN
is live at the Staples Center with highlights and backstage coverage we're seeing for the very first time. Sari.
Well, a very, very heavy diversion tonight. We had a very Darrison, but let's go to Terrace and look for the heavy pit.